Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we'll be listening to Building Success, Ingram and Booksellers in Conversation, a session that was presented at Winter Institute 2026 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to snowy Pittsburgh. So this is the Building Success, Ingram and Bookseller in Conversation. If you want to be in another room, you should be in that room. This is not that. So I think we're going to do it sort of casually, I hope. And I also want to make a point that there are two Jasons on this panel. And I think Jason is trending as a name. And when I first moved to Manhattan, I called the operator to get my phone unlisted. And she said, "Do you know how many people named Jason Rice live below 34th Street?" And I said, "I don't." She said, 18. I said, "Really?" She said, "You guys should have a club." So I think Jason and I could start a club.
You can call me Other Jason.
Other Jason. I don't know. You can just call me Jason. That's fine. And then Ron Smithson has hired another Jason to be on the wholesale team. So Jason is trending. Nancy, you want to do a little housekeeping?
Yeah, before we get started, just a couple of things that we need to go through. The antitrust guidelines, just reminding you we can't talk about price or pricing policies, potential boycotts, or dividing up the market. So just getting that out of the way. And a couple other things. We will have some handouts at the Ingram booths, so please, or Ingram table, so please stop by there. After the presentation, there will be an online survey, both on the app and one that they'll email it to you. So please fill that out so we can get that feedback. After the presentation, the recordings will be on BookWeb and Book ED. And if you wouldn't mind, please silence your cell phones for the next hour. Towards the halfway point, we're going to have some Q&A, so we'll have a microphone going around, so please ask for that to ask your question. So back to Jason with a description about what we're going to be here for.
Yeah, this is really a practical panel designed for new owners navigating the day-to-day realities of their first year, which I think is a super important year, obviously, in bookselling. Hear from your fellow booksellers, Jason and Sarah, and Ingram experts as they share real-world advice on managing inventory, making smarter buying decisions, and using iPage to make the day-to-day easier, stay organized, and grow sales. Whether you are weeks or months in, you'll leave with an actionable strategy to help your new store thrive. And I also think this is a great opportunity to, if you don't know Jason and Sarah, to make friends and to be able to reach out to Jason. I always use Jason as he's my beta tester for new stores who want to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, because Jason's been around for a long time. Very experienced. Phoenixville store is beautiful. If you ever find yourself in that part of Pennsylvania, please make an effort to go there. So we're really lucky to have Sarah Glavin, owner of White Oak Books in Vancouver, Washington, with us, and Jason as well, which you mentioned. Nancy Rowland, who is the sales manager for Great Lakes region at Ingram, someone who works on the same team as I do, and Jen McCullough from Tennessee, and she's a manager of data and product management, Ingram Content Group. So she's an iPage, I want to say expert. That's a knowledgeable person, yeah. So the first question that we have here is going to be just for the two booksellers, two owners. When you first opened your store, what aspect of inventory management was hardest to get your arms around? And how did you adapt, Sarah or Jason?
I think the hardest thing for me was kind of going into everything with an open mind about what my customers wanted. I personally read a lot of crime fiction, mystery, thrillers, and I thought Reads and Company would become this, well-known crime fiction store on the East Coast, and it turns out my customers just didn't want it. I have some that like it and everything, and we're good, but I think just kind of being adaptive to what people wanted. We've over time shifted so much more to romantasy as the trend is, so some of that's just following the trends, I think. But, I think I always think I look at my business as much as a hospitality business as a retail business. And So I think like over time and pretty quickly, I realized like I don't really care to a degree what people are wanting. I just want them to feel safe and respected, and that we're here for them and we have what they want. So that's, I think, my biggest thing with inventory management is just figuring out what your people want and making sure you have it for them.
To speak to a little bit of what Jason just said, same thing. I didn't know when we first opened, with no experience bookselling at all, what people would want. There were no other new bookstores in our town ever. There was a Barnes and Noble. So I had lived there, I'm 59, and there had never been a bookstore. So I had no idea what anybody read in the community. And over time, we've been open for 2 years and 3 months. And after a year and a half, we expanded by almost double, which was a little bit crazy. So it's been a real journey to figure out how to stock the genres that I'm unfamiliar with. Unlike you, I didn't know much at all about crime fiction or mystery thriller because I haven't read much of it. And I still struggle with buying for that section because it doesn't seem that either I'm not buying correctly or we don't have a customer base for it. But it's been paying attention to the trends over time. Like right now, many of you are probably getting the same thing. People are buying a lot of political, nonfiction, a lot of fiction around authoritarianism and dictatorship. So I buy more of that. But one of the biggest challenges in the beginning and continues to be today is that I love books and I want to buy more and more and more. So I wish from the very beginning I would have set out some kind of, I wish I would have learned more about budgeting for buying. So I highly encourage getting more familiar with Abacus and talking to other store owners about how they manage their own impulse to buy everything they want to buy. Yeah.
So to sort of springboard off that a little bit, in that first year when you're buying front list and you've never bought front list before, and you're thinking about the books that have come out or going to come out, and you're buying after, let's say you've done your opening store order either with Ingram or on your own, and you're, well, now because books come out every week. So how was that first year of learning to buy books and not having ever bought books before?
Yeah, it's pretty challenging. I mean, I guess for me, initially I didn't really have a budget because I didn't know what the sales were going to be. So it was hard to say like, oh, we're going to, every year we're going to do this amount of revenue or whatever. So, and I do really believe that buying is an art. Like I don't think it's a science. I mean, there's, you can look at Edelweiss through all the comps and everything, and you can see, oh, I sold 10 of this or 15 of that, and everything is comp to Gone Girl or Song of Achilles or something, which isn't always helpful, because it's like, it's kind of lightning in a bottle. But I think that just, again, like I went into it kind of just with an open mind. Like I kind of knew like which directions I wanted to go, but I'm very much of the belief, like if something looks interesting and as you get to know your customers, I've had reps say to me, during a buying session, like, nobody else is buying this book. Like, why do you want 5 copies? Mm-hmm. And I'll just say, well, because I'm going to sell 5 and I'll reorder it after 2 weeks. You just kind of get to know like what your people want. But it is hard in the beginning, and it's disorienting because there's just so much. So when you look at like, some publishers, their fall list might have 1,000 books on it. And I do all the buying for the store. So, I look at every book. Like I will sometimes use filters, but for the most part, like I'm going through and looking at every book. And there's are tools that you can use, but, it's really just kind of matching, as you learn the trends for your customers, what's going to work for you. But it's kind of like just open water in a lot of ways, I mean, something you might think like, oh, this person's a best-selling author, like, I always see them on the New York Times list, but maybe that's not what your customers want, or they're buying it at Target or Costco or whatever. But then you see a debut that you feel like you can really get behind, or something you've read an arc of and you really want to support. So and come to conferences like this, you meet authors. Maybe it is a debut author, and you just kind of connect with them, and you're like, this is a person I want to support. So there's a lot of that sort of thing. Just kind of nurturing like all sides of it, from the customer to the author to the publisher, distributor.
I'm stuck a little bit. Hold on. I'm still nervous. So yeah, I read a lot of translated literature, heavier. When people ask me what I read, I always say suffering. Because I love, if it has to do with war or genocide, or, right now with authoritarianism, I'm all in. So I trying to balance our front tables with lighter, happy endings has been somewhat of a challenge. I'm not familiar with them, but I've become a little more. I did read Remarkably Bright Creatures. So that was helpful. Over a customer recommendation after she had found out what I normally read. Oh, you need a break, And we've got a great staff, and over time they've really developed a sense of what the customers like and what they love and what they'll hand sell. So they give me lists now of new releases or backlist that they've loved that we don't have, and they sell those books. So that's just been a gold mine. And I have liked, we do have 10 employees, and I like to ideally find out what each prospective employee likes to read, so that we can cover all the genres. There's somebody writing shelf talkers for each section, or as in our store, shelf talkers certainly sell books, and we have customers that write them for us also. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say one other thing. And I don't know if you all are, early in your store's life. Like, I know when we opened, we didn't have a lot of staff. I had 2 part-time people myself. So, but as you grow, like, I think now we've been open for 7 years. We opened in 2019. So my first year, like, was interrupted by COVID. So I look at my first year as kind of like my first 3 years almost, because it was just but I think that as we've grown, and I have about the same staff as Sarah, but I think that the inventory in my store is much more reflective of their taste than my taste at this point. And I think, like, as Sarah said, like, empowering your staff, and like, as you grow, like, kind of we keep our staff picks in the front of the store, because I want everybody to know, like, the first thing, that they're in a place where, like, the booksellers matter. And that's like our core identity is like what our booksellers are. And I think that will be reflected in your buying over time.
Great answers. Thank you. For booksellers who are new and brand new to iPage, what are the first features or tabs that you would learn to make buying faster or more intuitive? I know a lot of stores use buying from a POS perspective, but a lot of people use iPage as their warehouse, and they look at titles and they look at that information on iPage. And I'm wondering what you found to be helpful now that you didn't know then.
I really like on the title pages, like the product pages, all the metadata that there is, as far as like, it's still like, we use Book Manager for a point of sale system, and they have, like, Book Manager has the jacket description and everything, but still iPage is where I go for, like, if I'm doing for our book clubs, for instance, like, I always have a quote from, like, some sort of media, and iPage is where I go for that, as well as, like, just the content description for an event. If I have, like, the about the book, it's just, I find that so much easier than anywhere else to get that information. And that because Ingram has everybody's metadata that you're going to get it. Like you don't have to go hunt for it or try to track it down on the publisher's page. Even for like independently published authors, it's there a lot of times. So it's just really useful for that. That's I'd say what I use, every day pretty much.
Oh, we love Ingram in our store because, we had come from no experience. Ingram has literally stocked our store. I know that there are other places to access information, but it's not the same. What Jennifer and I were just talking about was one of my favorite things is the worth considering. So if I'm looking up a book and I want other books like that, their algorithm sets the worth considering. Well, that's often where I also find other new releases or other new in paperback, and they're related. I love being able to search the author's backlist, all the filters, the Boolean, which I just learned to use and I love. So I really encourage everybody to surf around. Don't be afraid to check into everything. There's great help docs. I'm not up here to give a plug for Ingram, but I really love Ingram. Yeah, and in developing or stocking the store, we did get the Rosie, and it was fantastic. And from there, I was able to, look up further works by those authors because maybe I hadn't heard of them. And I did look through every book that they sent me on the Rosie, which was a lot of books. So, our store was pretty well curated to what I wanted when we opened. So, yeah. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's good. Good answers. Thank you. I want to move over to the iPage and discoverability. I think this is a good moment because there's a little bit of talk about that, and go to Jen and Nancy for a little sort of demo of, as sales reps for Ingram in the wholesale division, we help everybody get their store open typically, or we solve problems and we work on iPage. A lot of questions come up that seem really flummoxing at first for people. And then I think there's little tips that are great to know that you don't know right away. And then also there's a lot of things on iPage because it's very deep and wide, full of information. So Jen, if you want to go a little bit about discoverability, and then Nancy, if you want to give a demo after that.
Sure, yeah. So like Sarah said, on the product details page, there's a lot of information. You'll grab one of those, Nancy. And like Jason mentioned, some things that are really helpful. I was a bookseller for a little while, and we used BISAC quite a bit to match up where we would shelve a title and what would make the most sense for location and interest. So there are several different places throughout the product details where you see the BISAC. And then you'll also see references to lists. So if a title is on one of our lists that we've recommended, a handpicked list, you'll see those. There are many icons and things like this is expertly curated, which means that someone has hand selected that book. And I really like that there's a link back. So when you find one of those titles and you see the list, you can click on the list and then go to those places. And then you can find other lists and things that are relevant and helpful that might be similar to that title. So at a title page, that's a great way to go. Yeah, thanks. And then we also have lots of hand selected lists and things for when you're getting started. Those can be really helpful. So under the curated tab, you'll see lots of, this is a newer feature. There you go. So you can see some of those trending titles like Sarah mentioned, and then links to other pages so that you can get recommendations of products and things that might meet your needs. There's a lot of good resources on that page. And if you'll go to the search section, it can be a little overwhelming at first. There are a lot of tabs, a lot of menu items, but we do have an iPage Academy and some places to get help. But under our browse and our search, you can also find links to industry picks and bestsellers. You can find curated catalogs. You can also see some of the street smart titles and recently published. So all of those are going to get you to a filtered list or lists of lists. And that'll help take some of the burden off of where do I even start? The high interest categories, I think, are a great place because there are a lot of different lists on there. And those are published monthly. Yeah, so you can go there and find pretty much anything you want. We're trying to build out the world language section. There are a lot of different interests. And then you can drill down farther. So it really helps narrow down our vast categories. And let's see, Sarah also mentioned the worth considering, which is really cool. And then on the homepage, we have some places where you'll see titles, go across. So there's a lot of good information even on the homepage. And you can customize that as well to see, edit and see which titles would I like to appear in these sections. And finally, there's so many ways to search. But on our search bar at the top, a lot of people like to filter and use keywords, especially keyword by title. And I see Nancy has hers turned off. That's kind of a hot tip. I like to turn it off sometimes too. And through there, you can do different drop downs and searches and things like that. The keyword search is going to get anything in the metadata, but a title keyword will hit all of the titles. And if you get lost, there's a great help section with FAQs and things like that, and a chat that is 24/7. So I strongly encourage you to use that.
So, okay, I'm going to go through just a couple of quick tips that maybe you know about, maybe you don't. So like Jen was saying with the search bar, you can either use any of the criteria or like I had mine off. I kind of like that because you can put in a number of different values for that. So let's say you're just looking for editions of Wuthering Heights. You can just go ahead and put in the title. Go ahead and change the sorted by to Ingram demand. So our most popular editions are at the top. And then you can scroll through and find which edition you want to order. Of course, you may or may not be ordering through iPage, but when you do, you add it to your wholesale carts. And then when you're ready to place that order, you go ahead and hit standard order. And then I have to put in my password because this is not my computer. And then one thing I like to point out is typically when you're placing an order, your warehouse is going to default to DC pairs. So it's going to shop your primary first, then your secondary. But you are able to shop all 4 of our warehouses. So if you see something in a warehouse that you don't normally shop from, but that's the only warehouse that has it, you can put together an order from that warehouse. Same shipping terms or free freight minimums apply. So as long as there are 20 units shipping from that warehouse, you get free freight. So you just want to make sure to change that warehouse to whichever one you want to, shop for that particular order. And then you just go ahead and place the order. Now, iPage is great if you're looking for order status. You can go ahead and go to the orders tab and then click on order status. It'll have all of your open purchase orders. You can click on one of those and see what is still open. You can look at your back ordered items. You can also do an order status search. So if you know of a particular title that you or your customer is looking for and you're not sure if you have that on order, you can go ahead and put that ISBN in the search field and go ahead and hit submit. And that'll bring up anything that you've ordered for the last 6 months or so. So as you can see, I have this particular title back ordered because it hasn't come out yet. If all of a sudden you say, I don't need that anymore, you can go ahead and cancel that back order by clicking this little box and then hitting cancel or edit the selections. That brings up a box where you can go ahead and cancel that item. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And going to submit that. And now the cancellation is pending. It has gone through. And so it will be updated on my account. So now when I go back to order status, let me go back there. I don't have anything on back order. So that's been canceled. Another great resource on the order status tab is the recently shipped orders. So if you're not sure if an order has shipped out, you can click on that. You can sort by the most recently shipped items, or if you know a particular PO number, you can click on that. So just click on one of those links. It'll bring up initially your shipments from the last 14 days. If you need to look back further, you can do the last 90 days, and that'll have your tracking information on that. Another thing I want to point out before handing it back to Jason, Sarah was talking about the help tab and what a great resource that is. When you click on that, one of the first things you notice is the reported discrepancy. This is the easiest way to submit a damage claim to customer service. So when you click on that button, it brings up a form. All you need to enter is the invoice number or the order entry number, and then the quantity, ISBN, and the reason, damage or short shipment, of why you're making the claim. And that is sent directly to customer service. So that's a super easy way to report a damage. I kind of want to go on and on.
Could you do just
Yeah.
pull up a title and just go through the things that which to us are we all know, but some people might not know what those things mean. REG and not returnable, non-returnable, and then like just pull up the warehouse list, so that point out to the warehouse listings and what those warehouses, where they are, and then on what on order versus on hand means.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the product page, of course, you see like the title, author, ISBN, the price, the discount. If it's reg, it's going to get your full discount. If it's a short discount, it's going to be noted. So it would be 20%, 30%, whatever it is. You have all the bibliographic data, the pub date. You can click on different formats. This title in particular is only out in hardcover at the moment. So, but if you click on all formats, you can see large print. If I go back and look at the inventory, you can see that there's plenty of stock in 3 of the warehouses. It's currently out of stock in Tennessee. So if you were shopping from Tennessee, you can see there are 241 on order. And when you click on this little calendar icon, it'll give you the ETA when we expect it back in the warehouse. So you can see that's due back in at the end of March. So that's kind of a rough breakdown of a product page.
Yeah, it's perfect. I just wanted to cover that for people, because it's, there's questions on there that you may never have seen this before. I want to go back to the Rosie really quickly to Sarah. You mentioned that you've had a really good experience with it. And I know that new stores have lots of different ways to do an opening store order. And if you've never ordered books before and you've never opened a store before, and this is really overwhelming, and you said felt like it was really good. What was the experience of getting the Rosie, looking at the Rosie before, seeing how do you percentage the store out? You don't have to talk about your budget, but you can just say what the Rosie meant for you in that first few weeks.
Well, it was really easy to get through our rep, which we have a great rep.
That's Trent Shaw.
Yeah, it was Trent Shaw. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we've had a wonderful experience with him. So I think it started with, I was sent about 10,000 adult titles and 6,000 children's titles. Now, I knew I would never get to the children's because it took me a couple of months to get through the adult. I went through every book. So we had a woman on the East Coast that helped us and kind of does that for children's bookstores throughout the United States. It was a really good experience. Anyway, so, I ended up ordering probably, 80% of what they had sent me on the Rosie. And like I said, I went through every one of them. And I was really impressed with not just the variety, but the quality of, I'm kind of snobby You know, I like good stuff. I think it's good stuff. Not that all of it isn't good, just what I think is good for me. So I couldn't imagine opening the store without having had Rosie. And even for a small store, I know I've talked to prospective bookstore owners. They always ask, how did you choose your books? How did you get your books? So even if you're only ordering, say, 1,000 books, it's still really helpful because you fill out a form kind of identifying the percentages of each of your genres that you'll be buying for. So, I had to guess, but, we had built our space out. It was vanilla shell when we got it. So we built it out and kind of had diagrammed off of each section. So, I had a rough idea, and then you calculate how many books per shelf that is average to start with. And of course I wanted more than that on the shelf, which I did. I probably didn't stay within budget, but I don't know if I'm staying within budget now. I just know there's always money to pay the bills. So yeah, that's my experience with.
That's good. It's good to know, and good for people that are thinking about opening up a store. There's lots of different ways to the waterfall, and you can do it yourself, and you can do it with Rosie. But I think if you've never done it before, never bought books before, it's really super helpful to have a sort of a guide. Now, Jason, you did a little bit differently when you opened up your store in 2019. I think I was still at Baker and Taylor, I remember, and your opening store was different because you did a lot of that yourself, having a lot of knowledge about the books that you wanted, as you spoke to about before, and getting that opening store order. And I remember, we won't go into that, but that was a wild party, and it was really wild. And it's old news, but that getting there, you did a lot of that yourself. And I sometimes run into bookstores who say, I'm going to do this all myself, and that's great. Okay, no problem. But I'm here if you need me. Don't worry about it. And then I get to that soft opening, and the store's 60% full of books, and they say, I didn't really realize how hard this was going to be. I have to go to every publisher and look at every single list, call all this together, and go direct. And there's lots of different ways to do it. But I think it's good to have you here, Jason, to talk about, you did a lot of this yourself and what that experience was like and how you sort of felt after committing to it.
Yeah, I did do. I should say too that Reeds and Company, the store that I own now, I owned a bookstore before from 2006 to 2011. And then I worked for a book distributor that specialized in like medical and nursing books for a while. So when we started thinking about Reeds and Company, like I had a pretty good idea of like the sorts of things I wanted and how much space we would devote to the kids section, all of that stuff. But I think that for me, as I was planning the opening, I did make a point to open up accounts with publishers as well as distributors, just so I could start, establishing those relationships. And it was a balance, and it still is. I mean, I use Ingram in different ways throughout the year. Like during the holidays, for instance, I really only order from Ingram and Penguin Random House because I just am so confident in the, distribution and the efficiency. And I don't, this getting a little off, but I'd always rather have. I want to be able to sell the books I can sell. So if it's a Tuesday and I realize I'm out of a certain book and Ingram has it in stock and the publisher has it in stock, I'll often order it from Ingram just because I know it'll be there by Friday and I want it for the weekend. Like a lot of us, probably a lot of our business is on the Saturday and Sunday. But as far as going back to the beginning, it was a mix of, I think probably about 30% of what I ordered came from Baker and Taylor at the time, where Jason was, and then the rest came from publishers. But again, that was kind of part of my whole strategy to establish relationships with publishers, even though I knew in the beginning I wasn't going to be like a big fish for them. I was just going to kind of be like, I just wanted to just get it established so I could grow it. And I felt like, at least getting some of my initial order direct to publishers just put me on their radar, kind of. So.
No, that's great. Yeah, because now you're sort of like a destination in that area. I mean, it's really, really great store. I want to talk a little bit about direct to home and how it can sort of save you time and what direct to home sort of means. Real life applications for special orders. Sometimes you may have an event or an offsite, or you have somebody who wants to get 500 copies of Wuthering Heights and they live in Alaska, however that might be. Sarah and Jason, and then maybe we could talk, Jen, you could talk a little bit about some of the functionalities of direct home if you want. But have you used it? Like during the pandemic, I know it was a really big tool for people. And I'm wondering if, as we move forward, it's still something that we're using.
I think for me, especially with like bulk orders, like if a school, like our school district, for the kids that are going from 8th grade to 9th grade, they buy a copy of a book for every kid in the grade. That's a book I never want to touch. Like I want to order it and have it go to where it's going. And I just want to place the order and have it get there. And I think that in general, like I wish honestly from the beginning, we didn't ship many books. We didn't do like a lot of direct to home sort of thing. And I've seen that business last year was 10% of our business was, stuff that we were not selling like, in the store, but was getting supplied to customers through another source. So I guess I kind of always thought like that I don't know what my perception was, but I guess I thought that, we're the kind of place that people want to go and buy a book and just kind of be in the environment and all of that. And that's all true. But I think as people experience that, they're going to, as they love your store and maybe they're visiting relatives from out of state or something like that, they'll start shopping with you, from their homes, even if they're in Alaska or something like that. So I think that that's something I definitely overlooked in the early days of my store was just kind of like what that business could turn into. And it was really eye-opening last year because the jump year to year was pretty significant. And I just think it kind of just hit that tipping point where, more and more it was something people wanted to still support an independent bookstore, but maybe in their town in the middle of Missouri or something, they didn't have one, but they can shop with us.
Well, truth be told, we haven't used direct to home.
That's okay.
We do a lot of special orders, but I did not know or realize we just did a 500 book order for the library, and we got them delivered to the store. So I'll remember that and check it out.
And Jen, do you want to speak to anything from direct to home that's a new functionality forthcoming or anything that you think people should know about?
Sure. So not as much of a new feature, but this was really post-pandemic. We were responding to people who are shipping a lot of things direct and large lists. So there is a bulk upload feature for direct to home. You can take a spreadsheet. So if you had a lot of customers in the store, you had them fill out their information on a mailing list, you can basically break that into separate orders. iPage will do that for you. And you have several different ways to select. Basically, you're building several different purchase orders with one bulk upload. So that's a really nice feature. And I think you could get creative with how you'd like to use it. There you go. So there's a template there for you to use. So you can download that, keep it, kind of build your orders throughout the day. That's one way people use it. So that's pretty cool. You can also select direct to home from a couple different locations to fit whatever order you need. You can go from the product details page. There's a drop down. There you go. So it is a nice tool for flexibility. When I was working in a bookstore, we did a lot of special orders around the holidays. People would call in and say, I want to send this here or there. So you can use it to build that single order or multiple orders at one time.
Also, where on iPage can you opt in if you've never done it before?
I believe there's a drop down under My Account.
My Account, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And your direct home orders show up in your order history and order status and things like that as well.
That's great. Yeah, perfect. So I have one more question before we turn it over to the audience for questions. Is for Sarah and Jason, the importance of establishing a line of credit. How long do you wait before you establish one with either your wholesaler or publishers? And this is sort of a big question and answer piece, is what the benefits are and what the drawbacks are. If you want, you don't have to go really deep into it, but I'm just sort of like, because it comes up a lot, the line of credit question. And because many people are obviously operating a credit card, keep everything clean, but the benefits and so maybe the drawbacks, if you want to talk about that.
I very much believe in establishing a line of credit with any supplier, if you're able to. There's a lot of reasons. I think we do a lot of events. So for me, like if I'm going to have, say 200 people at an event and it's ticketed, so I know I need those 200 books, or even if it's not ticketed, or if I'm doing like, especially with like romance events, like we sell a ton of the backlist as well, even if it's ticketed. So I know I would much prefer to not have to pay for the books up front so that I can, have the revenue from the event and then pay later, rather than like put, thousands of dollars on a credit card and just kind of, fingers crossed. I think it just gives you a lot more flexibility. I mean, you can talk to your credit rep and say like, hey, whatever your credit limit is, like I might be getting close to that, but this is why. And, can you help me, or can we just have eyes on it so that, nothing gets hung up? I just feel like it's like anything, it's managing, it's an extension of managing a relationship, so that you just, you have somebody kind of with eyes on what you're doing, rather than just kind of like sending an order as if, you're ordering it on, from, Target or something like that. So I think it's very important, and, there's a lot of benefit. I know it can be tough. Like sometimes on the other side, I mean, sometimes I see my balance for certain suppliers and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be tough. But in the end, I mean, if you're running the business the right way, like you'll be able to kind of, cover that. It's just really like cash flow and all of that. Like this time of year, cash is always lean for us. So I look at our numbers every day, whether it's sales, bank account, everything. And, this time of year, it's always a little like, ooh. But I kind of know from the cycles that it's going to, it'll come back as the spring comes and everything. But I think, yeah, definitely it's important to have a line of credit with whoever you can.
Well, I suppose none of us like to pay interest, right? Credit cards. And for me, especially I think we established terms with Ingram. Wait, Peter's about 6 months in? I don't remember. I think about 6 months in. And it changed my life in terms of how to manage credit card debt because of merchandise. You're also ordering, we order a lot of merchandise. We sell a lot of merchandise. And I wanted the credit card to be specifically for that, so I could just keep track of merch. And Ingram was really easy to set up terms with, and little by little, our limit increased when we first did it, because we're pretty busy. The limit was so low, I'd have to place the order, pay it off, place the order, pay it off, and so it didn't leave a lot of wiggle room for merchandise buying, because I had to save some of the income to pay off the credit card, and then, but the increase happened very quickly, and it's all, on a pretty good system now. And we have terms with, I think, all the publishers. Yeah. And Batch is very helpful for that.
Yeah. It is kind of a process, though, to get those terms with suppliers. So you just kind of have to navigate it the best you can, whether it's starting small with like a small credit limit and then paying on time consistently and asking for an increase, once you feel like you've kind of proven yourself. And it kind of builds on itself. So once you establish terms with one supplier, you can go to another supplier and be like, hey, we have terms with these people, et cetera. And then it you have to commit to it. I mean, it's a process, but as long as you're paying on time for the most part, it'll happen for you. But it is a process.
Perfect. Thank you both. So we're going to go over to the question and answer part. If you want to direct it at somebody or at the group, just let us know. But please feel free to ask us pretty much anything. Happy to answer any questions.
Good morning. I'm not a new bookstore owner, but I'm continuously learning. I have 3 questions, quick ones. How do you get in the vault?
Let me show you. So there's a couple of ways that you can find titles that are in the Indie Vault. So one of them, and I wanted to point this out earlier. So we have the section for hot lists, and as you can see, one of the links is for Indie Vault. So if you click on that, that's going to bring up the titles currently in the vault. You can click on a title, and as you can see, this little vault icon, when you hover over it, it'll show the quantity currently in the vault. So we will sell through those 233 copies first, but once those are gone, then we'll have 200 copies just for independent bookstores.
And do I need to be approved for that?
You do need to be a brick and mortar store. If you're like a mobile store, then
No, brick and mortar.
okay, you don't need to be approved for it. It's
So I
just
can put those in my cart.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And we automatically pull. It's based on your customer type. So
Okay.
since you're an independent bookstore, you're automatically part of the program.
All right. Second is there somewhere on there that physical catalog for the month is on the page somewhere?
Yeah, like the advanced catalog.
Yes, the advance.
Yeah, so that's under the Browse tab. And then as you can see, we have Ingram catalog and supplements. And then you can see we have the advanced catalogs listed.
Okay.
So again, they're going to be e-versions. So it'll bring up a little flip book that you can then kind of scroll through. And
Can you click from those?
yeah, so you can flip through, and then you can also zoom in if you're looking for if you want to kind of see more detail on a particular title.
But click it to a purchase. It's not live to click to.
Through that, it's just the flip book.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my last question
Hold on.
is,
So
yeah.
at the bottom of
Yeah.
the page of Ingram homepage,
Uh.
there's also links to the Access catalogs that do give you all that information.
oh, okay.
Yeah, let me go down there. So
Yeah.
if we go down to this catalog, then yeah, it's going to bring up links. So if you just want to look at the featured titles, you can click on that and then add it to
Oh,
in
perfect.
order. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. And the last one is, I just started noticing the Worthy and what it has in there, like you said, something that's coming out or changed into paperback. But if you were interested in 2 of the items and you click on one of them without taking a picture of what those were, it repopulates what the Worthy is instead of just going back to show you the exact 5 books that were there. Is that something that can be fixed?
We can certainly look into it.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Can I go back to direct to home really quickly? So I'm super new to that, and I would like to know how, if like I upload everything and I want to like send it to like an event company or like something like that, can you just like really quickly show me how to do that again?
Yeah. So like Jen was saying, we do have if you go to the quick order cart, and then if you scroll down here to the upload multiple direct to home standard orders. So that would be like if you had 50 customers ordering the same or ordering titles, you could basically download this template, which is an Excel spreadsheet, and then it'll have the customer name, address, a field for the ISBN quantity, and then the shipping method you want to use. So when you're ready to place the order, you would go ahead and click on that feature, and then you can choose your file from your computer. And then it brings up basically, like if you have 50 different orders, it'll have, 50 different direct to homes, and then you can submit them all at once.
I also have two questions. The first one is, it was news to me that you can put together an order from one of not your top two warehouses.
Yeah.
And this may be more of a question for my point of sale vendor. But do you know if any of the point of sales integrate that option when you're EDI transmitting?
Yeah, they should have a field for warehouse.
Okay.
So, and it probably defaults to the DC pairs, but I would think most of the major POS vendors are going to have the ability for you to change that warehouse.
Okay, thank you. The other question is, when there's something that's listed as on back order, but there is no date, where does that information come from? Is there anything we can sort of gently suggest to a customer, like it's like an average of maybe 2 weeks or whatever it is?
I know it's definitely kind of an art discerning that information. There are a couple things that you can look at. Is it out across the warehouses? That might mean that the publisher is out of stock, meaning they're doing a reprint, and that might be a little bit longer. If you see it like in all of, the warehouses except the one you're ordering from, then you might feel like, okay, that is coming sooner. Another thing that you can look at is the publisher. Like if you're familiar with the publisher, if it's a bigger publisher, if it's Random House, if it's Simon & Schuster, they're probably going to ship a little bit sooner than if it's like maybe a smaller independent publisher. So those are just some things that you can kind of discern. And if it's something really important to you, reach out to your rep, and we can also contact our buyer and try and get more of a sense of when that book might be coming in.
Yeah, it's really effective just to reach out to one of us, your wholesale rep, and we can ping a message in really quickly and probably get a couple days and answer, sometimes faster. And it's fairly reliable information to know, so you can pass it along to the people who've ordered from you.
And that especially helps if it's like an event book and you have a certain date when you need it by.
Yeah, that helped me a lot. Recently, we were doing book sales for a film noir festival, and the newest book that this guy had written was out of stock with the publisher. And I initially went through my point of book manager, and I didn't see any in Ingram, but then I went on ipage and found like 25 copies were available from like Reno, I think. And those were the 25 copies that were available in the country. So it's always worth, if something looks like it's not available in your point of sale, like it's worth going on ipage to see. Because that really saved me, because I was not going to have any books to sell, or at least not the newest book that this guy had written. So it's very useful.
Hi there. I was hoping that you could walk us through the process of placing a Rosie order, like how customizable it is. I know that there's a form where you kind of say what percentage of the genres, but just generally like for size, or if you want specific titles, how that works.
Yeah. So with the Rosie order, it starts with a minimum budget of $10,000. And what we do initially is we send two documents. One's the Rosie questionnaire, which is just a bunch of questions about your store, your community, what types of books you'd like to carry. And then the Rosie grid is where you enter your budget, and then you can say, I want 30% fiction, 30% nonfiction, 40% kids. You can totally customize that. And then what we do is we create a suggested order based on those parameters that you've given us. At that point, it comes in an Excel spreadsheet, and you have total control, like Sarah was talking about, of going through all of the titles, picking the ones that you want to carry. Now, if there are titles on there that aren't on there that you want to carry, then you can create a selection list on ipage. And when you're done editing the order, then we combine that together and ship the order as one. So in total, the process, it varies from store to store depending on the size of the Rosie. But in general, it takes around 6 to 8 weeks from filling out that information to having the books delivered. And when they're delivered, they come sorted by category. So you can just open up the boxes and start shelving books. We send the information to your POS vendor, so they upload it into your system. So that saves you a lot of time. So that's kind of a rough outline, and we'd be happy to. Are you a new bookstore? Are you? Okay, great. Yeah, stop by the Ingram table and we can tell you more about it. Yeah.
Hello, longtime user, first time questioner.
Welcome.
I have a question about shipping and like shipping alerts and updates. I know a lot of times, or we have been noticing recently, that our orders will show shipped under order status, but then it takes a long time for it to show up with like an actual tracking number and or getting a packing list. So I guess my question is, what's going on with that? And part two of that question is, what's the mechanism on your side? Is it coming from the warehouse as like a person that's having to like do this like a manual thing, or is this like an automatic, like what's going on with that?
Yeah. So when an order says shipped on iPage, typically what I interpret that to mean is that it's been packed up, it's on the truck, it's going out. Typically, I've experienced that night. So let's say you're looking Monday morning and an order says shipped. It probably means that the warehouse like packed that over the weekend, and it's going to go out tonight. And then what triggers the packing slip and the shipping notification to you is the warehouse will close out the order in our system. And so on iPage, that'll change it from shipped to it would go to that recently shipped orders link on iPage. So I've noticed it more from the Tennessee warehouse, just because they've had a lot more volume since Baker and Taylor closed their library division. It's something that if you're noticing, it's really having an issue for your operations, then I'd say like reach out to your rep, and we can work with the warehouse to try and get those closed sooner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the warehouse hasn't like closed out the shipment yet. So yeah, I'd say work with your rep on that.
Final question.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you able to explain the co-op program?
Yeah. So through Ingram Wholesale, we don't have a co-op program, but what we do is we create a co-op report for you. And you can use that information with publishers that are requesting the information. I know right now, like Macmillan is really reaching out to stores, so I've gotten a lot of requests for that. So you can, if you need that run, stop by our table. We can get your information. But basically, once it's done, you can find it under this reports tab on iPage. You'll see the Ingram Content Co-op reports show up, and then we'll have an annual report for you. So that'll list your annual sales for the previous year, and then you can break out which publisher is asking for that information.
Yeah, and it'll say 2026 1/2026, which is for 2025, because it's run in the new year. So it's run in January, February, usually right around now, and then it's evergreen. So.
We have 2 minutes left if anyone else wants to ask a question.
You can go ahead and file this under questions that I should have Googled, but can you explain to me why I would choose ordering something from IPS rather than from my regular warehouse?
Yeah, so IPS is a separate division of Ingram where they work as the sales and distribution for those publishers. So just looking at an example of an IPS title, when you see an IPS title, you'll notice that there is a separate inventory for them. They ship only out of our Jackson warehouse, which is the IPS warehouse. And so that's basically going to be like ordering direct from a publisher. So you're going to have a higher discount and better like overstock return percentages. And you can basically use the same, cart feature. Instead of adding it to your wholesale cart, you'd add it to your IPS cart. And then when you're ready to order, just go ahead and place a standard order. Their free freight minimum is 15 units. That's kind of a general overview of IPS. Yeah. And
That's it.
Yeah.
You've just been given the hook. So thank you so much for coming and really appreciate the questions and the feedback. So stop by the booth if you have any more questions that you didn't think of now. And again, Sarah, Jason, Jen, Nancy, thank you so much for being part of this great group.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!